Hey guys, this is Paula Rallo with quick blogging tips. And after today's post about site speed, several of you guys had some questions. I was getting a bunch of messages asking for clarification and just to go further in site speed. I think this is one of those things we all know is hurting us. If we have a slow website, nobody likes a slow website, but it can be hard to figure out how to fix it. So in addition to the 2 tips I gave you in today's post, if you haven't read those, you can get the link in the comments. I wanted to show you something about testing your site speed and talk about the type of speed that we're aiming for. So go with me now. We're going to share my screen here so that you guys can just take a look at the whole process. So I'm going to hop over here and grab just a link to my blog post. This is actually today's post about improving site speed that I'm grabbing. And we're going to go to GT Metrics. This is a free tool, so you guys can sign up for it and check some stuff. And so when you go to gtmetrics.com, you'll be able to analyze things. So I'm going to put in the blog post URL. You can do your full site URL, your homepage. But make sure you're looking at individual posts as well, because those posts can sometimes have funky things going on in them, like the gravatar issue that we talked about in the blog post. So we're going to be testing this blog post right here that I entered the URL. But one thing that's important that you can do down here is turn on an ad block. So ads, we all know, slow down our sites considerably. But if you have a good ad network, your ads are going to be loading last after all of the content has already loaded. So this gives a better user experience and shouldn't be docking you too terribly much. If you have a good ad network, such as AdThrive or something like it, that it won't be affecting the way that Google sees your blog, because they're just looking at your content mainly and not your ads, as long as your ads aren't messing up your user experience. So I turned the ad blocker on, so we're testing my site speed as if I didn't have any ads. And they were explaining actually at the AdThrive conference that sometimes what happens with your ads, while this is generating the report, I'm gonna unshare my screen. So what happens, as they were explaining to us at the conference, is that when the GT Metrics or another tool like that is testing your website with the ads on, the ad companies know that this is a bot checking your site speed or checking on something. They know it's some sort of a bot, and so nobody really wants to advertise to a bot. So the different things that go on that get us the best prices for our ads in the waterfalls that they've created and things, if you're using a service like AdThrive, they have a much harder time filling that slot than they do if one of your readers is on your site. So it's not really giving a fair estimate of how long it takes to load your site with the ads. For one thing, it's always going to look slower when a bot's loading your site than if one of your lovely readers is loading your site, because the ad targeting companies know exactly how to target to your readers, where nobody wants to really target to a bot. So that's one of the reasons to do it without it. And then, like I was saying, you're not, if your ads are set up properly, you're not getting docked points for load time if the content is there, because that's what the user's there for, versus if the ads are there or not. Your reader doesn't care if the ads are loaded on the page or not. They just want to read your beautiful content. So turning the ad blocker on when you're testing your site speed can be really helpful to get a better view of what your user experience looks like. And we all know that user experience is the most important thing, both to us as content creators and then also to Google. Google cares most about user experience as well. So this GT Metrics has now done my site analysis. So we're going to pop back over to screen share so that you can see that. So here we are, latest performance report, fully load time, 5.3 seconds. So another thing actually that they explained to us is that you want to do this several times. Like when I tested this a few minutes ago, I think it was like 3 seconds. So it can fluctuate a bit because of maybe the computer that was testing it or the computer's location that was testing it. So you want to make sure that you do several tests in a row to get a good average. This page is generally averaging, I think, about 3 seconds, if I remember correctly. So this is going to give you a lot of data. You can kind of ignore these 2 scores because they can drastically mean different things, but the fully loaded time without ads is important, 5.3 seconds. But we're going to get some more information by scrolling down here. This looks really intimidating and scary, I know, but Mostly if you see A's or B's, like just kind of ignore it. But if there's an issue, you can click right here. And this is, if you looked at the blog post I did that's in the description, this is where I was seeing all of those gravatar issues. It was actually down here on optimizing of images. It was down here. So I'm actually seeing right now that I'm having some issue in my author box images. So I can go in and look at that. You can actually click and open these things in a new window and see exactly what the issue is. So this is like a little Instagram icon that's in my author box. So if that continues to give me issues in my author box, I may change the way that I do my author box because it's throwing up some issues in this post. So anyway, you can kind of open these up. If you're not sure what something is, just open it in a new window and see what it is. But what I really wanted you to see is, this is on the page speed. So this is the first thing that we're looking at. If we go over here to timings, this is really important. So TTFB is going to show you how good your host is. Basically, this is the time to first byte. And that is some kind of a fancy way of explaining to us how quickly the server is getting the very first information onto the web page that people see. I'm not a super techie person. I'm probably explaining that wrong, but how it was explained to me is that basically if this right here, if this is taking a long time, you need to talk to your host because that's an issue on their end. You can see mine's super fast. It's under a second because I have an awesome host. Super, super thankful for him. I could not always say that. So then we can kind of go on and see, like, first paint is when your reader's starting to see things. And then this right here, they were explaining to us, is when your reader is seeing pretty much everything loaded on their page. It's going to be right here in this contentful paint, and that's 1.9 seconds. And then all the way over here is when everything is on the page. So this is actually looking pretty good to me. 1.9 I'm pretty happy with. As far as most of the things being on the page at that time. So somebody had asked the question, I'm going to pop back over and stop screen sharing. Somebody had asked the question, what is a good site speed? And so that's why it's really hard to answer, because one, you want to make sure that your ads are off to be looking. Like you could say like under 3 seconds is good, pretty good site speed. That's going to be what people want. If you have more than 5 second site speed, people are going to be irritated and just click away, right? So definitely aim for under 3 seconds consistently. Like I said, you may need to run GTmetrix a few times to kind of just see what you're averaging on each page. But make sure that's with ad blocker off, and then look at the time to first byte, look at what people are getting, that contentful little tab to see when people are getting that, because that's going to show you, give you a better idea of the user experience versus if I ran that same GTmetrix thing with my ad blocker like not functioning, just with all of my ads showing, I would have probably been seeing more than 10 seconds load time. And so a lot of the time when people first do a GTmetrix, they get all worried because they're thinking, oh my gosh, my page isn't loading at all for 10 seconds, for 15 seconds, for 30 seconds, when that's not really the case. Your entire page may not be loading up until that time, but if we're talking ads, if we're talking about things that the user's never seeing, that's not as bad as if we're talking about your blog content not loading until that time. So GTmetrix can be really useful. I would definitely spend some time on that first page and kind of go through any issues that you might be having. And if you're having trouble figuring some of it out, please feel free to shoot me a message on Facebook or in the Quick Tips Facebook page, and we can kind of try to troubleshoot together. I know just diving in there a little bit in one day, like I said, I was able to shave several seconds off of that load time, which was really exciting for me because I was just having an issue with some gravatar images that I never would have noticed that I was having if it weren't for GTmetrix. So I hope this helped answer your question. Those of you asking about site speed, aim for under 3 seconds without ads showing. And that's how you can test that out as well.